In my opinion, ever since The Sims 1 Living Large, the Sims universe has always used themes of the supernatural and science fiction to create content for players to enjoy. And you really don't have to look any further than the Sims 3 franchise, as there were two expansion packs that solely focused on it, being the Sims 3 Supernatural and the Sims 3 Into the Future expansion packs respectively. Now, today we are certainly going to dabble into one of those themes, and as you can probably tell from the title, we are certainly going to be taking a stronger look at the Into the Future expansion pack content. And what does that mean? Well, I'll explain in just a moment. Now, for those of you just joining me and just discovering this channel, my name is Michael, and I want to welcome you to Sovereign Gaming in Life Sims, the YouTube channel where I build worlds, lots, and share my thoughts on video games and the life simulation gaming space. Now, if you are just new to my channel, we are indeed still working on building out my custom Sims 3 world, and that is indeed SimCity. There's a whole Create a World series on my channel, and I've even created a playlist for you to conveniently watch that if that is something that you are interested in. However, today we are actually doing a speed build, as you can see on screen here, and today's speed build is all about the Observatory rabbit hole building that came with Into the Future. If I'm gonna be completely honest, I really haven't played a whole lot of Into the Future content. And the truth behind that is that it was my last expansion pack that I purchased for the Sims 3 franchise. Now I know what you're thinking, it was the last expansion pack for everyone. However, I only purchased Into the Future in the last maybe 1.5 or 2 years, so I really haven't gotten a whole lot of experience actually playing it itself. And I have to say, since purchasing it, I actually feel it's one of those expansion packs that is slightly underrated in a way. I actually didn't mind it, but at the time when it was released, during the Sims 3 franchise, while that was still ongoing, it never really appealed to me. It was content that I never really asked for, and it wasn't something that I really, gravitated towards. However, what makes it interesting and what makes it something that I want to actually introduce in my custom world here is that I actually really like the Observatory Tower from the Into the Future expansion pack, because you can actually have a new career and all of that, and I also really like the modeling of it. So I really designed the lot the way that I did, as well as the rest of the world, with these kind of lots and rabbit holes in mind, where they would look and where they would be placed. And so I knew that I really wanted something kind of at the pinnacle, at the top of SimCity, so to say, at that northern tip. And I really wanted it to be a really tall building, and so the observatory really fit the bill for that. And I also wanted to incorporate a little more science fiction to it, because I know that when I get around to actually building the science building lot, which will be in the central business district area, I'm not going to be introducing a lot of sciencey themes or any science fiction themes at all to it, and you'll see why when we get to it. But for now, this was really that entry, that proper tribute to the science fiction themes that have been played out throughout the entirety of all of the Sims franchises. And so that's why I really chose the observatory here. And as you'll see on screen, I experiment a lot with different terrain heights, with foundations, with some walls and all that. And like I mentioned in the last episode, one thing that I kept in mind was the heights and how the skyline was going to look. And even though this cluster of rabbit hole buildings with the government campus is a very tall set of taller buildings, it was something that I really was careful in selecting, because I didn't want the tallest building to be at this pinnacle point. I actually want the tallest building to be in the central business district. And I've done some measuring with the different buildings, and in terms of height, the tallest is actually the business building from Roaring Heights. Coming in second is the City Hall building from Roaring Heights, and then third comes the Observatory Tower. So in terms of different building heights and all that, I did want a spike of height in this government campus peninsula area, but I also wanted to make sure that the tallest building was actually going to be located in the central business district with surrounded by another cluster of towers and all that. So yeah, it's very it's very intentional that I chose the observatory building to fill in this slot here. And to me, it also kind of made sense since it looks a lot more like something that you would find in the future. And so with it being the only futuristic building, or at least the only futuristic rabbit hole building within the Sim City world that I am building right before our very eyes, I felt that having just like that one lone entry that kind of serves as a metaphor for like what's next was something that I felt that was very appropriate here. At the end of the build, I ended up placing the observatory tower on a wall platform that's on top of a foundation. And the reason why I did that is because it really gave me the staircase effect that I was looking for. I really wanted to have yet another mezzanine level, which to me just makes it just helps to upgrade the rabbit hole lots a little bit more. And it's something that I chose to do for at least a lot of the buildings in the government campus. I mean, we saw it in the last episode as well with both the police station and the city hall buildings. Anyways, one thing that you'll notice is that I do change my mind about how I want the inside to look, because I spent a lot of time trying to get the stairs to lead down back onto ground level, which will then lead into a set of doors. And originally my plan was to actually build out the inside of the wall that's set on top of the platform there, but unfortunately, like what ended up happening is that with all the rabbit hole buildings, it was designed so that it extends downwards so that you can theoretically like place a rabbit hole on a hill. I mean, maybe you need move objects on in order to do that, but it's something that you can actually do. And so what ended up happening is I ended up testing this lot just a little bit just to make sure that it wasn't extending downwards when placed on top of this wall platform. And it was extending downwards, and it's not necessarily like evident here, but you really had to like save and then quit your game and then reload it, and then you would see that there's just like a gray like a gray wall that just kind of borders it. It's kind of hard to explain, so it does show on screen there for just a moment. But yeah, the graphic asset itself does extend downwards, and you'll see that a couple of times, and that was something that I really didn't like, and it was something that I didn't want players to have to deal with, because I wanted to do a lot more with this lot than with the other two rabbit hole lots. I'll explain more on how I'm going to be adding more onto this rabbit hole lot than with the city hall and with the police station lot. However, like those windows that you're seeing on screen, they are absolutely going to disappear because they no longer make sense, and you would just be like looking into that extended asset that extends downwards. It's very hard to explain, so I'm hoping that it showed up on screen a couple of times just so that you guys understand that the rabbit hole assets, they're built with extended graphics for when they're placed on hillsides and whatnot. So yeah, that's something that is going to go away there. As you will notice on screen, there is a parking lot, and this is the first parking lot that I've really built out in the government campus. And the reason why I didn't build it out for the police station and for the city hall is because I honestly didn't feel like it fit those lots. Those lots were surrounded by those beautiful garden borders, and I just didn't want cars like driving through it, and their platforms and mezzanine levels were aesthetically pleasing enough for me to just like not want to touch them. So I decided to place a parking lot here, and the great thing about parking lots is that they can actually take up a lot of space in a lot. And that can be advantageous in a lot of ways. Like if you don't know what you're doing in a certain corner of the lot, which in my case was the case, I decided to just kind of place in the parking lot there. And as you'll see me use a lot of the university assets for that parking lot because it came with like parked cars. And that is the way I recommend players to go if you are going to build out a parking lot. Sure, you can use like the parking stalls that came with the base game and just kind of create a parking lot from there. However, townies will use those parking lots and then they'll end up forgetting their cars. And then those cars just kind of like last there forever. So I don't know if I've spoken about this before, but one thing that I am trying to do when designing this world is I am trying to design it so that it works with the AI and with how like townies behave and all of that. And in this case, like when they just leave their cars wherever, it does end up littering your world with a bunch of cars, which is why you only see like one actual parking spot in the that is usable for players in the thing. The other parking spots from the university lot, like the empty ones, are just there for decoration. I'm like 99% sure that cars and townie cars don't actually park in those. So yeah, that was kind of the idea behind the parking lot there. Where this lot is located could warrant for like an actual like parking structure and all of that, but in this case I just decided to make it like a side parking lot. I kind of gave the observatory tower its own little bay that's as it sits across from the library central station, and I'll get more into that later on this episode. But yeah, I kind of gave it its own bay, so it's a little bit separated but still accessible to that central station library lot that I will be building next episode. So yeah, the parking lot in this case was a lot smaller. It was something that I kind of like copped out on and I felt like it was certainly something that was necessary to have at least some sort of a surface parking lot area. Now, when it comes to like other parking lots in the SimCity world here, I likely won't be building them out as extensively ever. Like they will be smaller scale, sort of like this one here. And the reason being is that I've kind of already placed like the big parking lots that I've already wanted to place within the harbor and also like within Old Town. So those and also the stadium, I placed larger parking lots for the stadium as well. So yeah, that was really just kind of it that I wanted to mention for the parking lot. So I'm sure that you're already kind of seeing it, but what kind of a vision did I have for the observatory tower? Well, let me tell you. My idea and vision for the observatory tower is that it is much more than just a rabbit hole building placed on a platform. It's that it actually serves as more like a museum in a way of technology. And so you'll see me kind of experiment with the mezzanine levels, just kind of placing like maybe something that kids would enjoy. But I ended up just kind of placing the art that came with the Into the Future expansion pack for that choice there. And the reason why I really wanted to add that kind of a feature and function, I suppose, to this lot is that I really do want players to actually like visit this lot and to actually see that they can actually interact with different Into the Future stuff. So the idea here is really, I took a tiny bit of inspiration from Raccoon City and Resident Evil, in that there is like the idea that there's an underground laboratory that is active. However, it isn't just any kind of a laboratory, it's like in the shape of a pyramid. So it's essentially like the scientists that are in charge of this observatory really built their tower on top of a pyramid structure that's underground. And there are tons of examples out there in the real world where there are pyramids built on top of pyramids. So this is just like a case where a tower was built on top of an old pyramid structure, an ancient pyramid structure that they've completely gutted and made into their own private laboratory. So within that laboratory, like you have to take that Into the Future elevator into the basement. However, there's like a level there for visitors that can just kind of hang out and just kind of see the different scientific discoveries that are being made at this observatory. However, when you go deeper into the laboratory, like there are different places for you to actually like engage with some of the Into the Future stuff. Namely, the Into the Future portal would be located here. And what I really liked about those kind of laboratories, and you'll see it on screen very soon here, if not already, is that I created these like antechamber / hallways that just kind of connect up to it and into different labs as well. The underground laboratory, the like 3-level underground laboratory, really comes together because I really wanted to add in some sort of a pool for like training, I suppose, or maybe they have like an organism that they need to observe in there. Still added in a diving board, so take with that what you will. But yeah, the idea here is just to like offer some of the Into the Future expansion pack objects here in a place that makes sense. And you can build a bot here if you really wanted to, or you can also travel to the future. And this portal makes sense to be located here in this underground lab that isn't accessible by the public. So that was really the idea here, was just to try to make some of those items make sense in the context of SimCity and in the Sims 3 world here. I'm very happy with the way that the observatory tower turns out, and in fact I named it the Sixum Observatory Tower, just kind of after the Sims 3 lore of the exoplanet Sixum, which is just like Maxie's backwards. I thought it was a nice little tribute to that kind of history and to like where the roots are with this game, and also I guess to the aliens as well that they would encounter along the way. And yeah, very happy with the way that this observatory tower turned out, being that cross between the actual rabbit hole functions that it needs and also the gateway to the portal of time, and also as a museum of technology. So I feel like it kind of like hits all of the different themes that I really wanted it to without giving away the entire expansion pack's contents within one lot. So that was really a goal of mine that I was trying to achieve here, and it was something that I feel I was very successful in achieving. I also just want to mention that I do have to edit the elevators on this one, and I completely forgot spawners as well. So even though like this lot I consider to be complete, I just have to go back and do some of those smaller edits before I get this one eventually uploaded along with the SimCity world that I have created for you guys. So yeah, that's really about everything that I kind of needed to cover for like what the vision is. In the basement, in the lowest level basement, I should probably mention, we've got 4 different kind of labs within a lab, I suppose. One is of course like the botany lab, where you're dealing with mostly those plants. You've got the cow plant in there. I even threw in the hologram one in there just kind of as a little bit of a joke, I suppose. I could have put in like the magic bush in there from Supernatural, but I didn't. I just put in a bunch of starfish and like kind of tried to tell the story that they were just growing everywhere. So yeah, that was one of the labs in there. There's also like the chemistry labs, so you're just kind of using different kinds of chemicals. I even dropped in the pool from World Adventures just to kind of give it a little more intrigue. And of course, like it's separated by that glass wall, and you know, Into the Future came with a lot of great stuff. So those objects I used I want to call them like wall highlighters. I don't know what their actual proper name is, but I use those extensively throughout within each of those labs as attached to each of those antechambers. And yeah, I felt like it really created that secret laboratory feel that I was really going for. And then, you know, the multi-level pool was certainly something that I felt was great. I felt that it was very unique. And something that you would find in a secret underground laboratory is like some sort of a pool situation where you're testing large bodies of water, or maybe you're throwing in a creature in there just to see if it can swim kind of thing, or maybe there's an aquatic creature that you've come across that needs that habitat. So yeah, I was very happy with the way everything turned out. And oh yeah, there's another lab that is, so we've got the chemistry lab, we've got the botany lab, we've also got the robot making lab, so you can actually just make like robots in there. I also threw in the inventing station in there as well, just because I felt like it just kind of fit. I've probably been overusing the inventing station, but if you get your inventing skill up high enough, I think it's like level 6 or level 8 maybe, you can actually detonate objects, which I think is just, like, it's wild. You can really go wild with that one. And then the last lab that I decided to place in there is like some sort of like an alien lab, like one that you would like a genetic lab where you would experiment a little bit with genetics of Sims and maybe aliens and all that. So that was just kind of like the last lab that I had in there as well. It's all done very minimally, if I'm going to be honest. It was just like white tile on white tile, which I felt was very basic. I also wanted the lab to be very clean and sterile, so I didn't overdo it with a lot of the decorating objects. Again, it's supposed to be a secret lab, and even though like everyday Sims will have access to it, yeah, I felt like I was able to convey that look and feel pretty well here. Well, that's gonna about do it for today's episode. What you're gonna see me do is you're just gonna see me finish up building out all of these labs, and of course there is a tour at the end of this, so feel free to stick around for the tour of the finished lot then. However, what's next on the list and what will be the last build of the government campus neighborhood is the library / central train station that I have mentioned before. And it is an intimidating build. Now, I'm sure that you've noticed that I haven't really been placing like subway stops or anything in any of the government campus builds. Well, that's going to change with the central station one because it will be, it'll make sense there. So, I'm both excited and a little terrified of doing that build because it is significantly complicated. I've placed a 64x64 lot on top of tracks, and I've got to build around those tracks and to hopefully like make those platforms make sense. And I will likely experiment with using different levels as well. And it's also got to be a library. So there's a lot of functions going into that lot, and hopefully I'll make those functions kind of come alive, and hopefully they'll make sense. Like I said, it is a very big lot because it is it's a big build and it's a big lot, and it's the only lot in the government campus that I have to build from scratch. So there's no more rabbit hole buildings for the government campus. I've got to really kick it old. I got to build it old school, I suppose. All right. Well, that's gonna about do it for today's episode. Again, if the tours aren't already playing, then feel free to stick around for those. I'm very excited to just kind of show you guys how the city skyline is now shaping up, and I'm very excited to finally finish off the area with a middle density build of the library / central station. It'll be a unique one for me, and I think one that you guys will really like and enjoy watching. Anyways, I just wanted to take a moment here to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching and enjoying this series and watching this SimCity build just kind of come alive right before our very eyes. I really do appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like it, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing. If you'd like, I've got plenty more builds on the way. I plan on absolutely building out SimCity. And as for when the world and the lots will be available for public release, well, I'm just gonna kindly ask you to wait on that one there. As soon as it's ready for public release, I'll release a trailer letting you guys know, and I'll make sure that everything is easily accessible in terms of the downloads and everything of the sort. Anyways, thank you again for watching, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you.